Welcome to the Ourlads football channel. I am Ryan Rich Fat Baby McKee. I haven't unveiled that nickname yet on the Ourlads channel, but that comes from the Sports Gambling Podcast. And I got my guys Sean Stacking the Money Green and Ryan. What's your gambling name? I can't remember.
Oh, Real Money.
Real Money Kramer. Guys from the Sports Gambling Podcast are here to talk best bets for the NFL draft with us. We've also got Tucker Moss, our Duke of Depth Charts, here to keep us honest. He updates all the Ourlads depth charts, and so he's very locked in on what team needs are and just all things NFL right now. So how are you doing, Tucker?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for this. I'll try to provide info where I can.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, we'll keep these Sports Gambling Podcast guys honest. So let's jump into it. Do you guys have a place that you want to start where you think are the best bets, or do you want to just go through some of the lines as I had them on the sheet?
Well, let's real quick. I got to quiz Tucker here. See how good he is on the depth charts.
Oh, wow.
Tucker, what is Kool-Aid McKinstry? Is that his real name? And if not, what is his real name? Do you know that by chance?
His real name. I actually like his real name better. I think it goes better. JaQuincy McKinstry.
Yeah,
I love that name.
rhymes.
Yeah.
Yes,
But he's been called Kool-Aid since he was born. Apparently.
You were so proud of that question. He just casually leaned back.
You
and
could,
was like, oh yeah.
You can tell Tucker knows his stuff. Doesn't even bother. There was no pause to look things up. He was immediately on top of it.
How about the other best name in the draft? Chop Robinson. Is that Chop Robinson?
It's also not his name, unfortunately. I don't know how to say his actual name though.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like Chop Robinson for an edge rusher is pretty spot on.
That's an amazing name. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So
Kramer, what do you want to do?
No, I was going to say we can kind of meander through the list. I feel like when you talk about draft props, they ended up kind of merging into one another. So once we start talking about one, I'm sure we'll ramble on through.
Yeah, I wanted to maybe just start with the picks 1 through 10 and the odds that are there. First off, is there any point in betting Drake May second overall at plus 200? I mean, is there any chance that Washington go ahead and takes Drake May over Jaden Daniels?
They're publicly talking about, the Bears are publicly talking about giving Caleb Williams the offense. Seems to me that the fact that they're still offering Caleb Williams is shocking. So yeah, I guess from a second perspective, if the question is, are you going to take a stab at anyone else? No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So Jaden Daniels right now minus 240 to be the number 2 pick. Drake May plus 200. Yeah, I think you could talk yourself certainly into Drake May going number 2, but I don't know at this point if you're getting in. Yeah, I don't know if there's enough value at that price. I think it's going to be Jaden Daniels, but I also wouldn't lay minus 240 to take Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels in that type of offense they're trying to run makes sense. And to me, Jaden Daniels, unfortunately, is going to be, in my mind, a classic Washington quarterback where he's going to have some electric moments. But I'm worried about Jaden Daniels' ability to stay healthy at the next level. I think his frame might not be NFL ready.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw that with the Washington team when they had RG3, right?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Don't say
no,
that.
I mean, I compared him to RG3 and Kramer's like, oh, RG3 was much faster, much better in college. And I don't.
Oh, I'm saying he was a much more put together prospect.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an elite 400 hurdler, if I'm not mistaken. Jaden Daniels is interesting, but him being paired with Kingsbury would be the ultimate bust recipe.
It seems like, okay, Kingsbury like Kyler, you could see shades of Kyler, but Kyler is built way thicker and seems like able to take, and even he's had issues staying healthy, right? I mean,
yeah,
and his injury was a non-contact one. As well, so it is just a tough staying healthy in general. But yeah, I don't think there's a ton of value at 2. I do think it does go Jaden Daniels though.
Yeah. Is there anything from Washington's scheme, Tucker, that would tell us different than Jaden Daniels?
Not really. I mean, they could really go either way here. I kind of agree where like maybe if the odds were a bit better, it seems like how they are right now, it's kind of like I'd probably put the odds like where this is at, so it's not really good value, I'd say. But like it's a Cliff Kingsbury offense, so I mean I feel like either quarterback could be able to run. I mean they'll adjust to whatever they need to.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Drake May needing to sit for a year so he won't be the best Washington prospect?
No.
No, he's not going to sit for a year.
I mean, I've candidly, like, hand up, I've fallen in love with Drake May.
But he's convinced the Giants are going to get Drake May.
I think the negatives about Drake May are all related to the fact that he just has less polish because he wasn't being practiced only at a quarterback from a young age. He was a multi-sport guy. He has brothers who are athletes. His pedigree's still good. He's a natural athlete. I think this idea he's going to need to sit, watch his arm talent. He's way more prepared to play in the NFL than JJ McCarthy to me. And it's not even close. And come on, these NFL coaches have egos and a lot of them are good. So you have to assume if it's a little bit of footwork that needs to be cleaned up, no team is going to draft him in the top 5 and not play him right away.
All right. So let's say that Washington does take Jaden Daniels, and if we're looking at 3, it's between Drake May and JJ McCarthy. Any reason we should bet on JJ McCarthy to go to New England at plus 200 odds?
Well, Ryan will tell you so that the Giants can trade up and grab him. I think, especially, and again, this is something you gotta monitor. What's so interesting about the NFL draft and the betting market is there's a million different ways to bet kind of the same thing, right? So you could bet Drake May goes to the New England Patriots, or you could bet Drake May goes number 3. I feel much better just about the idea that Drake May goes number 3 than that necessarily he goes to New England. If New England doesn't like him, they could definitely, I think there definitely is a trade market for someone coming up to get Drake May at number 3. I think the buzz you hear about the Giants trading up for a quarterback is they would have to trade up to the Patriots at number 3 to get Drake May. The problem is I think the Patriots like Drake May enough to take him there. I think getting Drake May at minus 125, especially this far out, I don't like taking many minus bets, but I think that is one of the more better minus bets on the board right now as far as what I see happening. So I do like Drake May here a lot.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced they're going to take a quarterback. I mean, I know everyone lies, but they do seem content with Brissett, and they do seem intrigued by a lot of the prospects. And this organization has traded down a bunch recently, and we give Belichick the credit for it. But who knows? Maybe this is some sort of organizational thing, and maybe they are fine with Brissett and whatever else they have there. Bailey Zappi.
People have come out and said that there's no way that Robert Kraft lets the Patriots not take a quarterback.
Yes.
Maybe they take one in the second round. I mean, there's a lot of teams at the top that are weighing that. Do I take the elite receiver? Do I trade down and get a quarterback in the second round? And still I'm happy with one of these prospects. I think we thought McCarthy was originally going to be, but like the Bo Nix, the Michael Penix angle. So yeah, it logically makes sense, but Sean, as an expert mock drafter, you know you have to put your mind inside the man making the decision. So
Patriots love Drake May. They're going to take him 3rd overall.
All right. So no JJ McCarthy still not off the board in what we're talking about.
Yeah,
I would take. I think there's I think our friend Crack Rock over on X has alluded to this, but I think JJ McCarthy is potentially in play for the Fighting Craft.
Did you say your friend named Crack Rock?
Crack Rock is he's a guy on Twitter. He is
I apologize.
I think he works as like a waiter or a bartender at some fancy club and just overhears a lot of conversations. Very interesting follow, but he is saying that the Patriots are definitely drafting a quarterback. I agree. McCarthy has a shot, but I still think if they like McCarthy, they can still trade out of the pick. I put it this way. I still think there's a market for Drake May to go number 3rd, right? So like if the Patriots like JJ McCarthy, they know they can trade down and still get JJ McCarthy. If they're going to stay there, it means they're going to take Drake May. That's how I'm reading the market. And I think if we're looking at the JJ McCarthy odds, I honestly think JJ McCarthy might be the odd man out, because I think the market that truly likes him is the Minnesota Vikings. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to play a little bit of draft chicken here. And I think they're going to sit and wait, knowing that they don't have to trade up that far to get JJ McCarthy. I actually like JJ McCarthy's draft position to be higher than 5.5. I think 6 is the first time we see JJ McCarthy get drafted. And that to me is like the earliest.
All right. So I'm seeing his odds to be drafted in the top 5 at -175.
Yeah.
To be drafted in the top 10, he's at -1200.
Yeah. So, right. So they are saying like, no way he gets out of the top 10. I would. Now those markets
That's
probably
the angle.
Those markets probably aren't out yet, but I wouldn't even be opposed to, if you're looking for a long shot, the Vikings to just stay put and draft him at 11. And so if you can find the no market to that bet, if it's -1200, he is the top 10. I would actually look and try and find the no. I think JJ McCarthy is going to fall a little bit. I think 6 is still probably where he goes. Now his draft position, Circa just put it out. A lot of places, they all have him at 5.5. I would take the higher. I do think the Giants are in play for him at 6. I do think the Vikings trading for the Giants at 6 makes sense. But again, I think him falling makes more sense to me than him getting picked 3rd, 4th, 5th overall.
If he doesn't get picked 3rd, he's going to get picked. Like, I think there's a chance he gets picked 11th.
Yeah.
Well, over 5.5 is +140. So
yes, love it.
Pretty good odds if you think he's going to last past the top 5 for sure. And I agree with you. I do think that there is some precedent that he does fall past 5. All right.
I think I want to add something to that. I think like a big part of going to top 5, I don't think he would be like a top 5 pick, but the reason is because of the teams that are picking there. So like the Patriots, Vikings, and Chargers are all 3, or sorry, not Vikings, Patriots, Cardinals, and Chargers. Obviously the Patriots has a lot of rumor and stuff about them not wanting a quarterback maybe. So who knows about that? I mean, I think they probably need one, but when it comes to the Cardinals and the Chargers, those are very popular. Like they're going to trade down, guys. So it's like a lot of people just like to have the logical fit of, the Vikings will just take one of those guys' spots and then take the other quarterback, and it's nice and clean. But the draft doesn't work that way. It's it's messy. So
and so yeah, I guess this is the thing. Like, do the Vikings? The only way I think he gets a top 5 draft market is if the Giants and the Vikings are hotly contested back and forth for him, right? That would be the only thing that would drive it up to 4 or 5. But I think the Vikings are going to either feel fine trading at 6 or just waiting it out. Maybe even, hey Giants, you want to go receiver? Cool. We'll just wait, knowing that at 7, 8, 9, 10, no one's drafting a quarterback. We get our guy at 11 and we don't have to waste the draft pick. Cause there was that report that came out. Initially, everyone thought like, oh, Vikings got this extra pick. It's because they want to trade up. And then now the reporting came out, courtesy of Schefter, that it was actually the Texans looking to load up some. The Texans were the one that got that started because they were trying to trade for Stephon Diggs. So I still think him at 6 and over is where you go.
All right, so you mentioned the Cardinals, Tucker. That's where we're going next, to the number 4. As a Cardinals fan, I think it does make sense for them to trade down and load up on more positions. But I also do love Marvin Harrison Jr. Love to see them take him there. So right now we're looking at odds of Harrison being the 4th overall. That's the overwhelming odds, is that he is going to be the what's the odds right now? I'm looking at
-175.
-175 that he's going to be the 4th pick. JJ McCarthy at +175. I guess that's if the Cardinals trade out and somebody jumps up and grabs him. Where are you guys going with this one?
I still don't think we're sure that he's the first receiver. So it is interesting.
Oh,
that
wow. Okay.
they're making. I think there's still a like I think Malik Neighbors and all his speed is very intriguing to the NFL, and I'm not, and I even think Odunze is probably of quality to be the top receiver most years. So with that being said, yeah, I definitely don't feel sure enough to get this one going, because I also think the trade downs, like if the trade down happens, if Sean's unbreakable scenario gets broken with JJ McCarthy, it's right here, because someone gives, and it's not a team that we're thinking about, gives the Cardinals some sort of Godfather offer to come up a little bit and take the quarterback, or maybe it's to come up and take a receiver. Who knows? And it does seem like the Cardinals are interested. I know that taking the receiver would make the most sense, but yeah, I would say if you want, like, if you were going to get cute, I've seen nothing that actually directly ties the Cardinals to Marvin Harrison. And so if you're sure, if you think they're going to take the receiver, maybe you play it that way and try to flip it and have them take the longer shot receiver, whether it's directly to like them drafting him or it's the 4 pick.
Tucker, what is in your expert analysis? How would you rate the depth of the Cardinals' offensive line?
Offensive line?
Yeah,
it's not great. I mean,
right,
their start. I mean, it's like they could upgrade at basically any spot except for right tackle. So
right.
I mean, they got Jonah Williams at left tackle, but otherwise, yeah.
So, Jonathan Gannon coming over from the Eagles system, which what do they value over there in the Eagles? How they won the Super Bowl and how they had recent success. It's through building through the offensive line, building through the defensive line. I would say this, it's 50-1 for a reason, but the Cardinals staying put and drafting Joe Alt. Just read that as a headline. That to me is not shocking at all. I think Joe Alt, fading the hype. So I'm kind of going to speak out of both sides of my mouth. I don't think Joe Alt is such a lock to be the #1 offensive lineman, but also I do think if the Cardinals stay put, them drafting an offensive lineman, whether it be Joe Alt at 50-1, I don't think is really quite that crazy, because you need to protect Kyler Murray. You need to be able to establish a running game. Jonathan Gannon is a defensive minded head coach. These guys usually don't go for a flashy receiver. They're looking to more build in the trenches, establish ball control, that kind of stuff. Like, when the Eagles got to the Super Bowl, they rushed the passer and they were able to run the ball with Hurts and, had some good passing game there. But I think Joe Alt at 50-1, number 4, if the Cardinals can't trade out, is kind of interesting. And then I would even take some other dart throws on the other highly rated offensive lineman. Again, pizza bet here, but I just locking in Marvin Harrison to the Cardinals at this price to me doesn't make a ton of sense.
And I would say that what backs all of this up is there's a reason you can't find the Arizona Cardinals to draft player markets.
Yeah.
Because it's too much hinged on, like, that 4 pick is so much, based on betting odds, it's so much where the draft quote unquote starts. And so I think the book's being a little afraid to put up some the Cardinals specific markets is kind of reflective of that.
All right. Wow. I like the Joe Alt take. That's interesting, Sean. That leads me to my next question. Joe Alt at number 5 overall, plus 450. That seems like such a good betting odds to me, especially with the Chargers wanting to establish their run game with the new head coach coming on. Where are we with that?
So yeah, I love this market. I think there's a lot of different ways to play it, and I think what you brought up here is a fun way to get involved in it. I'm totally with you. I totally think the Chargers, they brought in Greg Roman. They have Harbaugh. They're going to be looking to build even their passing game coordinator is saying we need to take stuff off Justin Herbert's plate. We need to run the ball more. So running the ball more, it's a signal for what? 2 things: the offensive lineman and the running back. Now, I think if they stay put and if they're not able to trade down, which I also think it would make sense for them to trade down, them taking, if they're stuck at 5 and they can't get the trade, them taking an offensive lineman, whether it be Joe Alt or maybe the second offensive lineman, I think there's value in that, to your point, especially at plus 475, because you look at they have odds for position of first drafted player for the Chargers. Offensive lineman is the favorite at minus 140. So the fact that you're getting Alt at plus 475, who again seems to be the consensus number one, I think this is a fun way to get there. I also imagine a crazy scenario where if they are able to trade out of that 5 spot, maybe even down to the 20s, maybe even out of the first round completely, that they would end up drafting a running back as their first selection. That's 100 to 1.
Oh, wow.
So if you look at Blake Corum's odds for a running to be selected, Chargers is number 1, right, at plus 190. Now, again, Harbaugh has taken a number of running backs in the second round when he was with the 49ers. I just like the way you're attacking it. The Chargers to do something that's going to help them with the run game, I think makes a ton of sense. Wide receiver being plus 165. I don't know. That to me is, I just don't see them doing that. That almost feels like,
I guess that's the thought is they've traded away Keenan Allen. They've traded away Mike Williams. Are they not going to have a true number 1 receiver going into the season?
Does Harbaugh care?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to handicap Harbaugh. Now, if I was the Chargers, I'd be like, yeah, we got Herbert. Let's get some freaking receivers over here. Or if you're, fantasy and everyone else is like, yeah, you got rid of your receivers. You need receivers. These football coaches kind of do their own thing, and trying to handicap that more, I think you end up having more success.
I would say that the way to coming back all the way around, if you think, because the Cardinals drafting a pass blocker makes a lot more sense, a true tackle.
Yeah.
But what you're describing with the Chargers, like the kid out of Oregon State, Fuanga, he's the guy that is more the Harbaugh, like road grader offensive lineman. And I know he's in the plus 6 or 7 to 1 range to be the first offensive lineman taken. But for him to go to the Chargers, I'm sure is super long odds. Well, Alt was 10 to 1 or plus 450.
Yeah. Fuaga is 28 to 1.
There you go.
So yeah. And in these markets, even with the number 4 pick, if you're sprinkling, again, these are crazy long shots. If you're taking like at number 4, if you're taking Joe Alt at 50 to 1, I would also say maybe even throw in Fuaga at 100 to 1, just because the idea that, okay, they're going to go offensive lineman, maybe Fuaga, pops in there ahead of him. You want to cover your bases on that, I would say.
I was going to say, I like the idea of them taking a lineman just because of Harbaugh, Greg Roman's philosophy, build the trenches and running the ball. And Joe Alt makes sense if you're just, it's just the consensus lineman. It's easy to put him there, but you kind of have to look at what they need. So they have Rashawn Slater, who's like their best lineman, and he's at left right now, left tackle. They could move him. If you get Alt, he's going to go to left tackle, and you'll move Rashawn Slater to right tackle, which Slater played that in college. But if you could go for Fuaga, who some people consider he's right there with Alt, and he's like a pure right tackle. So it could easily be. I like that being mentioned. Like it could easily be Fuaga over Alt is the only issue with it.
Yeah. So why not at number 5? Take Alt at plus 475, Fuaga at 28 to 1 versus betting Chargers position of first drafted player offensive lineman at minus 140, right? Like to me, now again, you could get in trouble with the trade, with the swaps, whatever, but I don't know. To me, especially the Fuaga, as we talk it out, I think is pretty fun at 28 to 1.
And he's a guy that the odds and the mock drafts are disagreeing with pretty hilariously. There's mock drafts that have him outside the first round. And then the betting market he's clearly the second lineman, it seems now, that's going to be drafted. So pay attention.
Yeah, he does seem like, I don't know how to say his last name. Tucker, help me. The Fashanu?
Yeah, Fashanu, I think.
Yeah,
Fashanu. He seems to be a forgotten one too in a lot of the mocks. And I do think that he's there. Any thoughts about taking him, Tucker, at 50 to 1 to go to the Chargers.
That's possible too, and so is JC Latham too. I know people love him. It's just, yeah, I specifically, I've heard the most about, Altis consensus, and then Fuaga is really like, I hear a lot about people loving him. Like, I feel like he's a top half of the first round guy. Like, but I don't know what the odds on that are. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to predict past Alt. You'd have to get pretty into the scheme to see who fits the best with Latham and Fashanu.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some draft position bets, some big names that are going to go later. We've got Bo Nix, 32.5. Sean, over or under Bo Nix, 32.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna say over. The only team that I can see that people are like tying to him, and now a little bit of the Giants, but mostly it's just people saying, oh, it's definitely going to the Broncos. Lock it up for the Broncos there under 32.5. So if you think he's going to the Broncos, there's probably some better ways to bet that. I just think in general, when we hype these quarterbacks so much, they end up dropping a little bit. So I think these teams realize if they like Bo Nix, there's a way to get him in the second round. So I would go over on Bo Nix.
You also get the draft time where people remind everyone, they remember teams are going to want to trade up into the back half of the first round to lock up that 5th year of control. And it's like, well, not if they're not a first round quarterback. They're not. So I'm with you. Bo Nix feels like if he doesn't go 12 to the Broncos, he's almost certainly slipping over 32.5. So to Sean's point, you can probably find much better ways to take his positive action because he's going to be nowhere near the margin. I think if it's under.
The odds are agreeing with you, Sean. It's minus 185 for him to go over 32.5. Under 32.5 is plus 150. So you probably could find better odds for him specifically going to the Broncos.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like a lot of the draft betting is just like finding different ways at different books to essentially bet the same thing. So, hey, if you think Bo Nix is going to be in the second round, what does that mean? Well, it also means under 4.5 quarterbacks in the first round, most certainly. Right. So that's another way you could bet that same thing. So you just kind of keep poking around as far as what they offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts on Penix in the first round?
To me, Penix and Nix kind of fall in the same category. We were comparing them to like the Malik Willis, the Will Levis, like these guys that you start hearing these positive stories about as we get closer to the draft that almost certainly are coming from someone who wants something positive to happen to that player. And so you have to be really worried about that. And again, it doesn't. We haven't seen a ton of quarterbacks going at the back end of the first round to like secure that extra contractual situation. So then once you get there, it's like, all right, well, Penix and Nix are priced right at the line, like Sean was mentioning. You most likely can find better ways to take the unders, aka go under on the quarterbacks. And Michael Penix, I just don't know who's going to take him. And I think the positives were like, yeah, he ran a really fast 40 time. And it's like, cool. He doesn't really use his 40 speed when he plays. He does throw a nice ball. He threw to, he's got a first round NFL tackle, couple of receivers, pretty good. Not sure if he's going to pan out. I would go over before I went under. And I think he's a guy too, you might be able to get in on the team. I mean, everyone's talking about Seattle because of the familiarity with the offensive coordinator and potentially them being there in the second round when he could potentially be available. They didn't exactly make a big investment in the quarterback this offseason or anything, just bringing in Sam Howell. So over on Michael Penix before under.
Yeah, I would say over as well. 30. I get it. I mean, I think you might actually be a decent NFL quarterback, but it doesn't really matter. Again, you got to like throw out what you think of the guy and just think, what are the scouts? What is the league itself? He's not, in my mind, he doesn't have enough of the flashiness that they're looking for in a first round quarterback. So I think, again, if you like him late in the first round, you can usually figure out a way not to use that first round pick on him. So I would take the over 32.5.
The other big concern for him is just the injury stuff.
Yeah.
Of course. Like that's huge for NFL teams.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised too if like some of this. I haven't heard any medical stuff on Michael Penix yet, but you never know. Like sometimes close to the week of the draft or as we get up there, medical stuff will kind of leak out on a guy like Michael Penix, where it's like, well, okay, Seattle didn't clear him, and then you'll just see his draft prop, plummet. Like versus what is really going to move it the other way. I doubt anyone's going to come out and be like, we love Michael Penix, blah blah blah. If you're waiting on the injury stuff, usually it can only hurt your draft position. So yeah, another good reason to take the over there.
Well, Tucker, I didn't know if you knew, but we have one of the foremost tight end experts in the country in Sean Green here. He was a tight end in high school.
Yes.
And so I got to ask you about Brock Bowers. Where's your boy Brock Bowers going?
That's a good question. Brock Bowers is, there's a bunch of guys where you're trying to crack the code. The consensus is that he's taken by the Jets at 10. There's also been some rumblings about the Bears taking him. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Bears going receiver and or tight end. Bears could really do anything at 9. I still think them getting a weapon for Caleb Williams. Like the big part of this whole Caleb Williams and the Bears is they're trying to sell a new stadium, right? So how do you sell a new stadium? One, you got Caleb Williams, okay, done. And then 2, who's Caleb Williams throwing the ball to? Yeah, you bring in Keenan Allen, that's awesome, but a sexy receiver tight end to add to it could be really fun. So I think Bowers could go tight end at number 9. I think he could go 10. I wouldn't be surprised. I guess his number's at 12.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think if he doesn't go there, then Colts at 15 or even the Bengals at 18. I don't think he falls out of the top 20. I think 12.5 is probably right. I guess I'm a little scared at how everyone's mocking the Jets to Brock Bowers, but I guess I would take the under right now at 12.5.
Yeah. I mean, any concern right now are the Bears ready to move off Kmet?
They just paid him.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the other thing. But again, you're bringing in Caleb Williams. You got to have the most exciting pass catchers you can.
He doesn't block either. He's not exactly a guy that's gonna get it done and down. And it's a very interesting situation because he's another one where if the Jets, who I've read nothing about the Jets organization actually really liking Brock Bowers, and so I just worry that if he doesn't go there and he starts slipping, he's just a pass catcher. So where does he fit compared to the other receivers? Does he go after Brian Thomas? Does he fall to the back end there, kind of in the middle of this like top end receiver class? He's another one that I think if you don't like him to go to the Jets or somewhere higher than that, I think you can probably find alt markets that he slips. Like maybe you're potentially betting that he falls. I saw you can some places now have like alt draft locations. Maybe you double him up, say over 25. Maybe you even take a stab at him falling outside the first round. I just don't. Well, he's almost certainly going to go, but people are doing that thing where they have to hype him up. They're like, he's an athlete. He's a great receiver. It's like the Kyle Pitts thing. Someone's going to take him. But look what happened with Kyle Pitts. I certainly think it's hurt Brock Bowers, and the picture of him standing next to Gronk also not a good look. Didn't exactly look like someone who's going to be moving NFL individuals.
Well, and then the Jets position of first drafted player has kind of moved. It was tight end was the favorite, I think, recently. Now it's offensive lineman at +120. Tight end is second there at +140. So, I would still. That being said, I still think under. But
the Jets are a tight end away.
I mean, that somebody said this. I can't remember who said it, so I apologize if I'm not name checking it. But what's the main tight end that you would associate with Aaron Rodgers? There isn't one.
No,
right?
he was never a big
So
tight end guy. Yeah.
he's just not a big tight end guy, and he's not a big rookie guy either. So he's not going to probably trust a rookie tight end.
Well, they talk about how hard the offense is that they're running up there, how complicated it is to learn. So, yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a weird fit.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Brock Bowers, Tucker? From a depth chart perspective.
Yeah, so you mentioned like Komet on the Bears, like so they got Shane Waldron as their OC from Seattle, and they like to use tight ends a lot in his system. I don't really think having Komet would like make it so they don't take Bowers. They did sign Gerald Everett too, but Bowers is someone you can kind of move around. Like he's not just an inline tight end. You can put him in the slot, kind of like how Pitts is used. And the Jets is the other one where it's like they kind of need like they would basically play a lot more 12 personnel probably with Tyler Conklin. But they just need weapons basically. So if Rome Odunze made it there, that could easily be the one that could happen too. So it's just kind of hard to fit in with a team because no one has like a clear need for when they can take like Rome Odunze or whoever, like the top receivers earlier.
Yeah, you would imagine the three receivers go ahead of Brock Bowers, right? So if you're building out a mock draft or if you're putting together some of these draft props in a parlay, I think factor that in when you're also figuring in Brock Bowers.
All right, I don't want to sound like an all fantasy podcast, so we got to talk about some defensive players. Where are you guys at with defensive players drafted in the first round? That number is at 10.5 right now.
It's an offensive league, right? We're seeing the totals for linemen through the roof, receivers. We know it's a really saturated class. I think the other thing that hurts is you talk to any like TMZ football fan and it's like, all right, Dallas Turner is nope. How about Jared Verse? Nope. And so you just start going down the list and it's like, well, none of these guys are big name brands. The cornerbacks are never big name brands. And so, there's always going to be a couple of those. I don't have a strong take other than to say it seems like offense is winning right now. It seems like we're right on the fence with there being that extra lineman or extra receiver or extra quarterback, one of the offensive positions. So I would say under for the defensive players.
Yeah, hard to make an argument about that. I mean, again, these are interesting too because it's probably going to come down to those last couple picks.
Right, Lad McConkey, Xavier Worthy, Xavier Leggett, like all these guys are right on the border, and they're a much more interesting and probably better investment than what you would be getting there from the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I would go under. I'm with Kramer.
Well, under is plus 110.
Let's go.
So there you go. We've got total cornerback selected in the first round. Over 5.5 is at plus 300. Under 5.5 minus 400. I imagine you guys are leaning the under, but just curious what you think there.
I think when you see a market like this,
big names coming out with Cooper Zajun and Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I think when you see numbers like this, it's kind of already been determined. And the reason they're not moving the number and like shifting the juice to a more reasonable area is because they know this to be basic fact at this point. And maybe even their exposure is such that it wouldn't make sense to move and draw exposure in the other way. And so, just in general, it would be probably bad betting practice to go against these types of markets. I don't think you're going to win going on the plus side of these too often.
Yeah, you would. And even so, like you're better off. Think about it as like a parlay, right? Because you have to get essentially you're like parlaying all these different teams to draft a player in the first round or not. So over 5.5 is plus 300, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, you're better off trying to find one of these cornerbacks in the second round and say, oh, he might sneak up into the first round and bet them at like much higher odds versus say, versus like adding up all the cornerbacks and then to get to plus 300. To Kramer's point, like they've probably already figured out the 5 teams that are going to take quarterbacks or cornerbacks. So you're better off if you're looking for a plus odd, finding the specific cornerback that's going to sneak in the first round.
And yeah, it does seem like there's a little bit of a drop off, but yeah, maybe you're a big Enos Rakestraw Jr. guy out of Missouri. Maybe he pops into the first round there.
All right. I feel like Tucker, you got anything on this? Because I know you're a big Cooper DeJean guy. Is he going in the first round?
Yeah, he'll be first. Yeah, he'll be one of the 5. So like it's the drop off. Like you guys said, it's kind of established. Like that's why the odds are so big. Like usually when it's like a set number like that, sometimes it can just be very plus 100 odds on over under. But when it's like that, the top 5 are clearly like in their own tier. It's more that it's possible that like Rakestraw can sneak in at the very end or something like that, like the 49ers take him or something. And like you said, it's just better to bet on him making it in the first round rather than betting on more than 5 corners taken.
Yeah, or bet, the 49ers to draft him specifically.
And frankly, a cornerback contract, I mean, you saw it, the Chiefs just pulled it off, but having that extra year may be a little bit more practical with the cornerbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, do you guys have your favorite draft bets that you'd want to throw out, or anywhere else you want to go with this?
I mean, besides Bo Nix getting drafted by Sean Payton because Sean Payton loves big hands.
That is like, that's and that was Jeremy when he was on our
David.
Or sorry, David. Well, I don't confuse him. But he gave us that nugget, and it does seem like the market agrees. Yeah, I mean, another one of these markets that I like, and we were just talking cornerback. Pittsburgh Steelers first player drafted cornerback is 6-1. I think that is something that I could definitely see happening. It is a bit of a team need. Them going defense in the first round, if you look at their history, certainly very, very possible. I think any sort of stuff like that where it's sitting, because they're wide receivers plus 350, which again, I don't know, the receivers that'll be available to them when they draft, I don't know, are going to be tempting for them to do it. Now, offensive linemen's minus 330. I get the appeal, but I just think at that price, you're getting better value here with cornerback because sure, it's a deep offensive line, or there's a lot of offensive linemen in the first round that people like, but Pittsburgh's drafting a little bit later. If their guy isn't there, them taking a cornerback at 6-1, if it's a need, if it's their history, I think is a pretty fun one.
All right, I'm going to give you 2. Both I on early, so I have much better prices than are available right now, but I still like it.
Oh, listen to that tout.
It is a tout, but Sean, as you know, I walked into this office maybe 3+ weeks ago, and I proclaimed Trey Benson was going to be the first running back selected. Yes. He since has plummeted all the way from 4-1 down to plus 180. I still think it's obvious he's going to be the guy. I think it'd be very surprising if he wasn't the guy at this point. I do think it seems like more teams favor him over Jonathan Brooks. His 3-down capability, everything about him. So I'm still buying that price. The other one, we talked about it earlier. I still don't know why everyone is so certain it's going to be Joe Alt. You look at the teams that Arizona, I completely agree with you. I think Joe Alt makes a lot more sense. But if it's the LA Chargers, even if it's the Tennessee Titans, it's Callahan, right? I think they're going to maybe more favor the guy who they know is going to come in and smash right away. And also, Sean, we were listening to a scouting report on Joe Alt that he can get bullied sometimes. He's too tall. He can get overwhelmed with. He can get overwhelmed
if you're
with strength.
6'9", it's tough to get low.
And so I think we see this all the time where we see this like buttoned up prospect, and then we see the guy who's kind of, I wasn't watching Oregon State all year. Boy, this guy's really moving grown men in the Pac-12, and so. Plus 650 for him to be the first lineman. I still think there's value. This was 20-1 a couple like a month ago. I still think there's value at 650 because again, if you dig around, I'm not exactly sure what NFL team is saying that Joe Alt is the clear number 1 in the class. Because to your point, I think some NFL teams might even have the Washington tackle in the mix, the Penn State tackle. Like I think there's more guys in the mix than the mock drafters are giving credit. So I'll take a little action on the Oregon State Beaver from the Pac-2.
Final one for me. Eagles. Oh, people always want to ask me what the Eagles are going to do. I like looking at the position of the first drafted player market for them. Offensive line's a favorite +140. Cornerbacks +140. D-line edge is at 2-1. I like D-line edge. I mean, they got rid of Hassan Reddick. Yeah, they brought in Huff, but this is a team. All they do in the first round is draft O lineman and D lineman. That's all they do. And I think they feel pretty good with where they're at with offensive linemen. They had they saw the Kelsey retirement coming a couple years away. They have a, transition plan there. I don't think they're going to draft a tackle. Now I wouldn't be, again, it's the favorite, so I wouldn't be shocked, but you have to go back to 2002 for the last time the Eagles drafted a cornerback in the first round. Like, that's just not how they build their team. I don't know if they're going to change it for Kool-Aid McKinstry. As much as I think he's an interesting prospect, I want them to move on from Bradbury. I just think they might do it in the second round. So position of first drafted player, defensive line edge. I think they're going to talk themselves into one of these edge rushers that might slip a little bit because everyone's loading up on all O linemen early on. So yeah, I like D-line edge at 2-1 for the Eagles.
Since you mentioned cornerback a couple of times, just wanted to throw this out there. Quinion Mitchell from Toledo. We have him on our Ourlads board as the second overall cornerback. And his odds to be drafted in the top 10 are +320. Any thoughts on a cornerback in the top 10?
I think he's a fun guy. I don't know if it's consensus, but he certainly is very much in the mix to be the first cornerback taken. Yeah. I don't think he's going top 10. I don't think any cornerbacks are going top 10 for whatever reason this year. Like I said, the market's kind of figured it out. 5 are going to go. It's going to be between like pick 13, pick 14 and pick 32. I don't know, but small. It's good to see the MAC popping their head up, getting the top guy. You can still actually, I'm looking right here. You can still get him to be the top cornerback taken at longer odds than both the kid out of Alabama and kid out of Clemson. So you think he's going to go first? You can still get good odds on that.
Yeah, we have Tyrion Arnold as our top cornerback, and Kool-Aid right after Mitchell. So a couple good Alabama cornerbacks there, obviously, but I like the idea of a MAC getting a player drafted high up.
And this is a great example of shop around because DK actually has him as the favorite at -165. So you can still find him at +165. So go figure.
All right. Any thoughts on Ladd McConkey, Sean? I feel like he's right in your wheelhouse as like a short white receiver who you'd like. Is he a first rounder? He's at +160 right now.
No, unfortunately. Well, this is tough. Because I think
the Chiefs could draft him.
I know that's it. Really, I'm looking at his consensus is to go to the Panthers at 33, which I kind of makes sense for them. Ladd there. I wouldn't be surprised if Andy Reid liked a guy like Ladd McConkey. Everyone, of course, is having the Chiefs draft a receiver because Rashee Rice, but he's just going to miss a couple games. I don't know if I would necessarily lock the Chiefs in for him, but I think the Chiefs could talk themselves into a guy like Ladd McConkey. You're getting plus odds on him to get into the first round. You say +160.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take it. Ladd's a scrappy guy who's going to find a way to get into that first round. 32nd, 31st, 30. That's his sweet spot. It's close though.
At Ourlads, we have him number 5 overall for wide receivers. So I do like him to sneak into the first round. I guess the question is whether you think Xavier Worthy with his blazing 40 time will inch up over Ladd.
Well, and everyone who plays fantasy is putting Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs, just because they love that idea of like, oh, Mahomes would throw it really high and he would just run fast. So if they don't.
In the same offseason, we saw Kelsey's dad bod. People are thinking that Patrick Mahomes needs speed.
Well, and I'll bring this up as kind of like the final reasoning for why Ladd might squeeze in there is, and also too, I think one domino, and we'll see if that domino goes either pre-draft or draft day. But again, David from your guys' site, Ourlads, great site, great writer. He was saying he thinks Brandon Ayuk is going to get traded, and now he said that like a week ago or so on our show. Brandon Ayuk just announced he's requesting a trade. If he ends up getting traded, then maybe the 49ers a little more interested in the receiver market. They get Worthy. That helps pull Ladd McConkey up into the first round. Basically, the fact that the 49ers are likely trading Ayuk, I think they do end up trading him. I think that could help some of these other receivers squeeze into the end of the first round.
Ladd could be the Niners receiver. Great route runner. Great
Yeah.
route runner.
I mean, Christian McCaffrey, Ladd McConkey
would really fit in at the pickleball ball courts.
You can imagine them just like, back to back posing for posters. I could definitely see a Ladd Christian McCaffrey poster coming. Bay Area.
No one needs that.
I like it. Okay, wrapping up here. Any dart throws you guys want to throw out to us, or just any like long shots that you guys are looking at?
Cowboys trade out of the first round, draft a running back first, 110-1.
Woo.
Ooh,
Yeah, I mean, I already kind of gave out my sweet long shot that the Chargers draft a running back as their first player at 100-1. Again, similar. I don't think they'll do it at 5, although who knows with Harbaugh. But again, if everyone keeps saying, "Oh, the Vikings will trade up," okay, if they do, them drafting a running back, do not. Because we gave out Lions to draft a running back with their first position last year at 50-1, and people were shocked. Jahmyr Gibbs. There's always, and as far as like, who do you think has a similar drafting mindset to Dan Campbell? It's a guy like Jim Harbaugh. It's a rah-rah guy who believes in controlling the football. Again, Greg Roman, what they're doing with their offense, like they're telling you, hey, we're going to turn Justin Herbert into a less mobile Lamar Jackson. It's going to be a lot of play action. How do you set up the play action? By running it down the opponent's throat. So yeah, them to draft a running back first, 100-1. I'm definitely going to have some action on.
We've got one running back to go in the first round at plus 800.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah. So
I think Trey, like I said, I think Trey Benson probably I think the earliest we see a running back go is maybe like in the 40s. Yeah. I think it's just there's no one has that elite like twitchy speed that people are going to fall all over themselves about.
Yeah, it's possible, but I think it's more fun to take a couple shots on, because most teams are 100-1 to use their first selection on a running back. Like that, Kramer had it at 110 for the Cowboys. I won 100-1 for the Chargers.
Just need a trade down.
Instead of taking, that at 8-1, a running back to get in the first round, take a couple shots on picking the team that uses their first pick on the running back. Cause then you have multiple outs, either them trading out or if they do actually use it in the first round. So I would try and identify the teams in that market instead of just the idea of a running back getting into the first round.
I like that. All right, guys. Tucker, any final thoughts here before we wrap up?
I was going to ask, do you guys have any, I don't know what the odds are, but do you have a prediction for like how many receivers will be taken in the first round?
It does seem, do you know what the number is? I think it was 5.
I'm looking right now. 6.5.
6.5. Okay. So, I mean, essentially you're probably needing Ladd and Xavier Worthy to squeak in there to get over.
Yeah.
I mean, look, from a contractual control standpoint, we keep coming back to this. The way that wide receiver assets are being operated in the NFL right now, to me, it seems most likely that if someone's trading back into the first round, they're doing so to go get a wide receiver. and because we're seeing how much value they have in those year 3, 4, 5 in terms of trade assets. So I would tend to go over here regardless. Also, people just love receivers. Like there's always a receiver that surprisingly goes higher than we think. I mean, think about the Henry Ruggs year. No one thought that was going to happen like that.
There are always teams like the Raiders that throw everything off.
And so, yeah, I would certainly go over. But I mean, the fact that the guys on the fence are like an elite speed guy, an elite route runner who played for a national championship team, it kind of seems like you can find your way there pretty easily.
Yeah, I'll slightly disagree. I'll say it gets. I think it gets 6. I think 6 is the number of receivers in the first round. You got the big 3 up top with Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze. Then I think you got 3 more of kind of that second class, and I think maybe getting that 7th in is a hair too much.
Okay, well, yeah,
you got like the Bills. You got I just think I think it lands right on 6. So there was a 5. I think there were 5.5s early, but again, a lot of times they mess with the juice. So I don't even know if a 6 is worth taking. I'd have to look at the price there, but yeah, I say 6 receivers in the first round.
To me, it's just kind of tricky because the last 5 teams are all like really good teams, and they all could easily take a receiver. So it'll be really interesting to see what they end up doing. Like, if they evaluate, if one of them has, one of the second round guys valued higher, it's very possible they take Leggett or Troy Franklin or Roman Wilson. I mean, if they love Keon Coleman from Florida State, that's totally possible.
Keon Coleman's another one. I mean, he's clearly being mocked in the second, but like there's some of that GPS data, like what he actually looked like in games. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that could pop up there for. So I would certainly go over. Now that we've talked it out, I love the over even more.
All right,
we're gonna fight.
Disagreeing with Sean there.
What's the price on the or who pulled up the 6.5? Ryan,
I did. So it's over 6.5 is plus 180. Under 6.5 is minus 240.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I guess if you're factoring that in, I don't know if I like it that much, but I do think it's probably priced correctly that it's going to be 6 guys in the first round.
All right, let's go.
Right.
I'll roll it out there.
All right. Well, everybody should subscribe to Ourlads Football YouTube channel if you get a chance. If you haven't already, also make sure to subscribe to Sports Gambling Podcasts on all your podcast platforms, as well as YouTube and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network as well. Check out all their different shows on YouTube and across podcast betting platforms. Make sure to check out Tucker's updated depth charts every day. He's working on them. He's glued to his computer, making sure that every update is correct. He'll be updating them through the draft, right, Tucker?
Yep.
So anything I missed, guys, plugging?
No, you got it. Let's go. Let's win some money betting on the draft.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much, guys. And we'll be back soon.